Greetings, beautiful people. So in this video, I'm going to talk about, you ever hear the concept of like an old man is supposed to be wise, or an old woman is supposed to be wise, and the wisdom is basically is based on experiences that they've had here in this physical realm. But what kind of wisdom, if they could pass down that wisdom, what kind of wisdom would that be? You know what I'm saying? Physical experiences, the old wise man. But then yet, when we start to look at old people nowadays, what kind of wisdom can they possibly pass down if not only is inverted living a possibility that they're passing down, but it is also basically coming down to this old person may be going through a process of degeneration already, losing their ability to remember. They can't even remember where they put their keys, for example. But this person is now trying to pass down wisdom to a younger individual to help them progress in life, you know? And when they're going through this degeneration, they may be losing functions in certain bodily parts, you know what I'm saying? Their mental state starts to deteriorate. And aside from all this, you start to think about, well, if they're going through this process of degeneration, are they fully aware of what's going on? Either way, is there an observer? You see, I made the example in the previous video. You know, we play with certain characters, but who is playing you in this game of life that we are actually experiencing? You see, there's levels of awareness, okay, which is why I talk about God being authority, okay, and I'll get into it in this video. But let's say, for example, everything that you do in this physical realm, are you doing it on autopilot? Are you aware, or do you reflect? There may be catastrophic moments, certain things that you may go through. Do you sit back and reflect, knowing that there's an observer? How much energy do you put into this? Like, the reason I even mentioned this is basically meditating. But if you sit down and just meditate on your consciousness, just meditate on your consciousness, because a lot of people tell me that they have a hard time focusing though. And the thing about the focus part, it is a muscle that has to get strengthened up. I've also used the analogy of people trying to sleep, where they have trouble sleeping. And medically, it could be a problem with their pineal gland, their pituitary gland, their thyroid, a bunch of different systems that may be not functioning properly, okay? And affecting the pineal gland. The pineal gland is what's responsible for helping you to go into a restful sleep so that you can regenerate, and the next day you are in tip-top physical shape, okay? But let's say, for example, if you're trying to sleep every night, like you forcefully try to fall asleep, it's going to be harder to sleep. It's easier to just let go. You know what I'm saying? Don't focus on trying to fall asleep. A lot of people are focusing on trying to focus, and this is why you have a hard time focusing. Okay? I've noticed you just let go. Just observe the thoughts. If they're there, just observe it. But let go the same way. But try to meditate on your consciousness and stare into your eyelids. A lot of the times people have a hard time visualizing something for it to become very lucid in your mind. Start with just staring into your eyelids. And the crazy thing is that you staring into your eyelids being closed, you're going to start to see patterns. Certain images may appear in your mind. They may not even be images you want to see. But you have to understand, this is where your spirit is at. Okay? So ride that. And this is actually strengthening that focus muscle. Without resistance, you're just observing whatever it is that's coming into your sight of vision with your eyes closed. But try to just stare into your eyelids. This basically gets your focus and your consciousness into a singularity, which is basically nothing. Okay? But something is, when you say nothing, you're staring into something to begin with. It's just like people say, I'm meditating, or I'm just sitting here, and you're doing nothing. You're still doing something. So you're still staring at something, okay? And something will figure out out of that patterns that you see in your sight of vision. Okay, this is why people have a hard time trying to figure things out outside of themselves, because everything's already figured out. You're only experiencing detrimental things because you're aligned with that reality based on your frequency and vibration. So the more you try to figure it out, it ain't gonna work. That's like you trying to, you break up with a toxic person, and then you try to find somebody else and you keep attracting the same person. The reason why is that you're still in that same frequency and vibration. So you're aligning to that actual reality. You'll attract the same person, in just a different body. Okay? This is why it's important to have the authority in your consciousness to be able to pinpoint certain things that are happening. You see, you may get urges, desires, and if you're aware that they're not serving you, then you have to be the authority figure to say no. Just like if you know a child is doing something that's not going to be serving him, as the authority figure, you have to say no. Okay? So you may have certain addictions or patterns. Once you pinpoint these patterns, okay, it is up to you to know that you have to break those patterns if you pinpoint the patterns to begin with. But that all comes down to knowing you and yourself, which is why I said that the moment you sit back and reflect and meditate on these things, and it doesn't have to be in physical form that these things are going to manifest in your line of sight. It may even be through thoughts and ideas and hunches and things that just pop up that will kind of tell you this is where and why I'm repeating these patterns. See, a lot of people talk about, I'm going to leave this realm and never come back. But these are the same people that I hear that actually tell me they have the same repeating patterns. If you're repeating patterns in your life and you can't break these patterns, okay, that's because your spirit is somewhere, okay, manifesting the same reality, and it's manifesting in this physical form as situations and occurrences that are either favorable or unfavorable to you. So if you can't break a pattern, an addiction, or a bad habit, what makes you if you cannot break that, that means you are technically reincarnating. And the reason I say reincarnating means that you are repeating this pattern in this body, and you're repeating the same cycles, same negative cycles. Okay? And that's why it's because of your frequency and vibration and where your consciousness is so rooted in. Okay? And that's basically where your spirit is at. Let's say, and I'm going to make the example here. Let's say, for example, something happens. Instead of playing victim mode, you reliving in the past. You stay in that pattern. You start to put so much emotion toward the situation that happened. The situation already happened. So you let go of that situation, and you're now in this moment. You start to think about, well, because of what happened, now this is going to happen. And then you start to panic and worry about the future potential outcomes that are more likely to happen because you're still in that pattern of the past, of what just happened. Let that go. And now you sit in your now moment. I'm free. I'm breathing fresh air. Nothing is happening right now. I'm perfectly fine right now. So what do? Now you start to organize your thoughts and the patterns you want to see in your mind to a future possible outcome. That's you figuring things out now from the inside out, not figuring out from the outside in. That's already figured out. You change from within first so that you can change your possible outcomes to a favorable one for you. Okay? Everything you do is cause and effect. So when you have people demonizing the systems out here, the government, and all this shit that's happening, these are all systems that are exactly how everything functions within you, exactly how it functions. You're just not managing them properly. Okay? So when you have an old wise man start to tell you about certain experiences, he's only telling you about, and first of all, see how he finished up his life. He's going to pass down to you the same bullshit outcomes that he's had. Now, if he's going through a process of degeneration, that's just a fact of not being able to strengthen what I just spoke about when it came down to focusing on your consciousness. You strengthen your consciousness when you focus on your consciousness. Okay? And the reason I say this is because with the consciousness, you're able to see between the lines. I already know there's a subconscious, there's the unconscious and whatnot, but when you don't have that awareness, let's say when you die, how would you be able to maintain the awareness to know where and what you're supposed to do in that state? You don't even know what you're supposed to do as a human. See, the reason I'm even talking about this is because I'm looking at, I have cats now. And I don't know anything about cats, but I'm doing research on cats. And I'm going to make a video on reality and actuality where people actually get lost on that shit too. Because if you really think about it, everything is set up a certain way where me, I don't like, I know on the chemistry, I don't feed my dog kibble or dog food because I'm aware of how it's processed, right? So I try to give him a raw food diet that's actually mimicking what a wolf would eat in nature, okay? Now with the cats is the same thing. They're obligate carnivores. However, you have videos that start to tell you, well, you must give them a balanced diet because in nature, they eat the animal with the organs, the eyeballs, the brain, everything intact. Like if they kill a mouse, they're eating everything, including the internal organs. So let's say if I was to just give my kittens just raw chicken, I'd be imbalancing their diet. But that dawned on me now because I say to myself, okay, a person who becomes so anal about giving a cat a balanced diet and they have no access to, let's say, purchasing brains or eyeballs or, let's say, testicles or whatnot, then now in my mind, I'm like, fuck, now I'm giving this cat an imbalanced diet. Meanwhile, you're giving them the appropriate food they're supposed to be eating, which is raw food, right? However, when you talk about balanced diet, see, I'm already giving them raw food to begin with to what I have access to give them, okay? Which is basically raw food. But I don't have the access to give them brains and eyeballs and all this other shit, right? So I can only give them what I can give them. But it is a hell of a lot better than giving them kibble or cat food. That I have neighbors who are giving them a certain type of food and these cats have diabetes. How the hell did they get diabetes? You get what I'm saying? I'll make a separate video on that because it comes down to basically how the protein was denatured and how they're receiving this protein, okay? And how it is spiking their insulin in an irregular way and the food's not being readily bioavailable. It's creating an imbalance of chemistry in their body. But this can go either way now because if you look at this, now there's information online that starts to guide you on how to feed them, but it can also be a detrimental thing because when now you have in your mind that you're not giving them a balanced diet, you may manifest deficiencies in that kitten because in your mind, you're stressed out about the fact that they're not getting a balanced diet. First of all, even if you had access to all these individual organs, it's still not a balanced diet. Because you know what a balanced diet is when the animal is intact. Everything is put together. When you start taking it apart, okay, that's a balanced diet. Balance is the chemistry is still intact in that animal, okay? The moment you even cut a watermelon, and if I cut the watermelon and I put it in the supermarket to sell it, that's not a balanced diet, okay? The diet of that watermelon or the nutritional value of that watermelon, whatever value that is to you, is balanced when it's intact. So the fact that you even have to buy all these organs individually, separately, from all these different type of animals, that's not a balanced diet, in my opinion. Okay? So you do what you can with what you got, right? Excuse me. Unless you want to just go and buy mice and give them a whole mouse and let them kill the mouse. That's a balanced diet, right? But a lot of people won't do that. Look at snakes. Snakes, you put a whole mouse in there and they eat the whole mouse. No chewing, just the whole mouse. They swallow the whole mouse. That's a real balanced diet. They're eating it with life force and everything intact. Balance is having the life in the animal, okay? All the organs and all the connective tissue, bones, everything intact. That's a balanced diet. Not the individual nutritional values that people put on things, including humans. See, because humans, once you start to cook these things, they're not balanced diets anymore. So what happens when you start to imbalance the body's natural chemistry? Okay, and I'll make a separate video on that to go in detailed, deep depth on that, because the key to proper health is actually hydration as well. It's not even just the nutrition of each individual things. Okay? It's actually hydration. Your body's made of water. Okay? So you want to put more water in your system. Now, when you have a watermelon, okay, that's a balanced diet. Now, these old men or women start to go through a process of degeneration due through lack of knowledge of these things. Because you can know a bunch of things in here, okay? You can have a lot of knowledge about a lot of different things. What are you? You're just knowledgeable. That's why they say, I am knowledgeable. That's why when you immerse yourself in so much knowledge, you're a knowledgeable person, okay? You're a knowledgeable person that can feed mind viruses to people in a positive and negative way at the same thing. When I was playing with my toys, I became immersed into that world, which means I became all those things in one shot. The moment, of course, I became aware and separate, I started to, my mind separated it. What I am to what the toys actually are, right? But your imagination is key. So, how you live your life, let's say, how much joy you could put into the situations that you have. How much, see, a lot of people live a rigid lifestyle. They may be trying to eat the most healthiest, cleanest, perfect diet, right? But then yet they're not, they're living like soldiers. They don't put joy into what they're doing. They don't put life and positive energy into what they're doing. They're only following what the book told them that nutrition and health actually is. So you could be eating the healthiest diet and still die of heart failure because you don't even exercise your own heart. So the reason I even said, if you have, I made this example in the previous video. There's a lot of people who live to be 90 and they ate garbage their entire life. But why is that? Because they probably lived a joyful life, a happy heart. They didn't hold on to grudges. They had a positive personality, positive energy towards certain things. Okay? So things of a lesser species, for example, like animals, you're feeding them an imbalanced chemistry, but you can also manifest a certain reality for them and reality for yourself. In fact, also based on knowledge that you've actually heard. That's the alteration between the actuality and reality. Because I may be giving them chicken legs and that may be a real good diet for them. But the fact that in my mind, I'm thinking that they have a deficient diet, then I'm going to manifest deficiencies within them. Plus, I'm not doing it with joy. I'm doing it with stress. So when you look at, for example, a child, they come in here very joyful. You're supposed to be able to connect with that child without words. You created that child with another person, right? So then what happens? You start to understand the universe because you created another universe. So now, without words, you know what you created based on your mental state and based on the other person being, if they were your soulmate, that'd be the best thing. That's why they say that person's your other half. But a lot of the times we manifest the wrong people into our life because we don't know what we are. So we manifest bullshit ass people and then we have babies and then this is what we manifest in this reality. So we start to study the planets outside based on what we've been taught, when we could do that by basically understanding our own creations, which are children. Children are closer to God because they just came from a space we're trying to understand. Yet in turn, you teach that child based on your experiences and wisdom as an old man. There's the reciprocity between you and that child. See, the child temporarily looks at you as God in physical form because you're giving it protection, things that the child cannot do or fend for himself because he's too young, too little, the body's too little. Who is to say that this child is not fully aware the moment they come out the womb and they start to slowly fall asleep as they get older? Which is why they say that through the years of 1 through 7, they're the most programmable. But their body is too immature to express what they know, the wisdom they know from where they came from. You get what I'm saying? But you should be able to do it with bypassing the system. You don't depend on the body to be able to communicate with you what it is that they know. You know based on telepathy, these extrasensory perceptions that we want to call like supernatural powers. That's how you connect with your child. That's how you get to know yourself, right? They look at you as God. we look at gods in other dimensions and other spaces and time the same way. They need you as much as you need them, because it's all you. The child came out of, is a piece of me, right? And I'm able to read that astrological chart without having to talk. I'm just going to know by staring into the eyes of that little child. That little child, whatever he or she knows, will tell me, because that child is fully aware the moment it comes out the womb. It probably says, fuck, I'm here. And it's probably trying to communicate, but it has no ability to. And the same way we try to get signs and symbols in human way, it doesn't work that way. That's why it's important to, like even gardening. You think, like the gardening, I told you, I've gotten so much out of my gardening, but it didn't come in human level communication. It happened in alien language. Okay? Because this garden is me. I created it. So I got an understanding of this garden without it having to talk to me. I was connected with nature. I wasn't too acidic. I was doing it with love. A lot of the times, we don't even love our partner, or we don't even love ourselves. How can we give love to the child that's coming out? Unconditionally. So there's the true wisdom. The actuality and reality you can create. You can learn a lot of things out here. See, a lot of the times I'm looking at these big YouTubers and, you know, they have live streams and whatnot. Sometimes they want to go debating and shit. First of all, these people don't even know how to debate, for one. And two, the people, you know, this is why, let's say if we have the people in power, the elites we want to call them. It don't matter what information is getting spread out there, because nobody's really even processing that information to begin with. It don't matter what goes out. It's not like they're processing that information anyway. They wouldn't even know what to do with it. They wouldn't even know what to do with it. See, some people are emotional. They get emotional. And this is actually a real big power. But if you don't know how to use that power is going to create a reality for you that is not favorable for you. And that's why they say with great power comes great responsibility. So it don't matter what they're hearing. They can hear the latest shit and they won't even know what the fuck they're listening to. They won't know what they're listening to. It's like if you eat something, it could be the most nutritious thing. If your body is out of whack and it's out of shape and it's not in the condition to absorb, you have malabsorption rings all over yourself, then what happens? You're not even absorbing the nutrients from that food you're eating. And a lot of the times, nutrition is not even just the nutritional value you find on paper. I mean, life force is very, very big. That's why it's good to eat living food too. You know? That topic goes deep and I can go into many different avenues with that. I would love to get into a conversation with somebody on that too. But yeah, man, I just wanted to cover that topic that had to do with the old man and the baby, you know, and the parents and knowing yourself and all that shit. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments. If you like, share, subscribe, and we'll talk soon.